Thank you for joining me again. This is Dr. Robert Bohannon. As part 2 of our Revitalizing America series, I'd like to talk to you about creating a national resource grid. Have you ever noticed that different areas of America will flood, like recently Texas, maybe the Ohio Valley? Others are in drought conditions, whether it's California or some other areas that could use the water. Imagine if we were able to take and pump and have pipelines that would interconnect all over the United States, and we can take water from one area that's flooding, pipe it into other areas, holding areas, and then into areas that are in need, or back into the areas after the flooding subsides. Do you ever notice that when a storm hits the Gulf, they shut down the refineries, and then all of a sudden we have gas shortages? Or there's an earthquake and it knocks off chemical refineries, threatens nuclear power plants and leaks. Imagine if we had a national grid, maybe along the interstate highways that crisscross America. And this grid would contain pipelines for oil, natural gas, liquefied coal, water, electricity, communication, as well as transportation. And they would crisscross America. Imagine that if one area has a natural disaster or, heaven forbid, some sort of a terrorist attack that would knock out portions of critical refineries or energy or resources, that you could reroute in a network that could take it from sources of supply and deliver it to sources of demand and not have those interruptions. Imagine that we have thousands and thousands of windmills in areas, maybe Wyoming, for example, that can tap in and provide energy onto the grid, or in places where you've got dozens of square miles of solar panels that are supplying electricity. It's getting the power from these production areas into the areas that are consumers of that becomes an issue. Imagine pipelines where you've got oil wells from all over that feed oil into the pipeline, and it's delivered at remote locations in a refinery maybe in Nevada or Utah, and that material is refined and put back into the pipeline as gasoline and distributed. Imagine having 10,000 small hydroelectric dams all across the Sierra Nevadas, all across the Rocky Mountains, all feeding this national grid of power where water can be pumped into and taken out of. Imagine high-speed train systems that run on these maybe 16-lane roads where all the interstate highways are redone, and you've got these pipelines running underneath or alongside. And you've got high speed, you've got truck only. Imagine the millions of jobs that would be created while solving this problem. Imagine a vast network of communications where you've got hardened communications, light fibers that crisscross America, not only in space, which can be knocked out, by the way, satellites, but physically underneath the interstates and all interconnected. Imagine automated cars and trucks, like those that are being introduced now, that could get onto these interstates and drive from one coast to the other coast with no driver interaction, and maybe having high-speed lanes dedicated to these auto-driving vehicles. Imagine if you've got a network of electricity that's underneath us, and you can actually power those cars with inductance. Imagine having nuclear plants in remote locations to create energy, chemical plants. Imagine the network being run and funded by a quasi-government and private group, a consortium, where operating is a competition between different operations companies. It'll take a great deal of coordination, planning, cooperation, and funding, trillions of dollars. I mean, this is a Herculean kind of a project. It would require millions of workers to create this national resource grid. But the results would mean that we have a more stable energy system, a communications platform, cheaper energy, cheaper products. Transportation would be faster and more efficient means of transportation innovated. Imagine what we can do. Where do we start? We need to contact our congressmen, our elected officials, and say, hey, what do you guys think about creating a national resource grid? If you have any interest, please contact me at the address below, or you can always email me or write me at drbob@americanomics.info. Thank you.